Hey, you're listening to episode 4 of Daz Dee TV, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about periodization, another book review. We're going to be talking about why master's degrees get you minimum wage, and in a new feature we're going to be talking about my fun game of the week. So before we get into the show, as always, I like to just give you a little bit of background on what I've been doing for the last week since the last episode. And I think it is a new personal best for me. I think in the last week I will have been at 4 different tennis academies. So today you're going to find me on location. I'm actually here early, and you might be able to see in the background the sun is coming up on Grantham Tennis Club. I'm here, a special invitation on their request, which I'm really excited about, to do a speed, agility and quickness workshop with their coaching staff. So I thought I'd get in a cheeky episode before we get cracking with that. So yeah, this week, just going backwards, first of all, started off at my local tennis club this week, Harpenden Tennis Club, on Sunday. And just for those of you who don't know much about me, that's actually where my tennis coaching or strength and conditioning coaching career started. Myself and my very good friend David Lawler, who we went to university together, I think it must have been about 2003. And at that point in time, he had just become the head coach at the club. And not surprisingly, given that he did a sports science degree with me, knew that he wanted his kids to be doing some physical training in their tennis program, got me in, started doing circuit training with the kids, and then obviously from there things moved forward. Now, I'm not going to say that it was plain sailing from there. I have to say, shortly after that, there was moments when I did want to quit, and I had quit the industry, but I managed to find my feet, I managed to find my way, and it kind of speaks to the truth of what we're going to talk about later with the next topic about the master's degree and the return on that investment of whether or not we think that it's actually doing us a disservice and not preparing us for the workplace. And certainly I have some experiences about that, and I will say that as much as, you know, things started great for me and I got that opportunity at Harpenden, I certainly had some challenges along the way, and I had a lot of questions to ask myself, because there were times when I really wasn't sure I was prepared to really excel in this job. But we can talk about that later. So yeah, Harpenden, got there. Bank holiday Monday just happened, so I was doing my tax return, so the less said about that the better. Tuesday, Sutton Tennis Academy, so lots of talk there about the syllabus, and we'll get into that a little bit when we touch on periodization. Wednesday was at Gosling. Today, as I said, we're going to be at Grantham Tennis Club for most of the day, and then obviously back at Gosling on Friday, and then back to Harpenden on Sunday. So I feel very blessed that I have this opportunity to be able to interact with coaches in all of these different tennis centres. Every tennis centre has its unique atmosphere, its unique challenges, and it's something that I absolutely relish the opportunity to do. So that's my week. So let's get into the show. So first topic, I was going to make this one of the big topics, but actually looking at where the attention graph is and where people have been commenting on my recent blog on the Masters debate, I really want to get into that. So today I'm just going to give you really a taster of maybe what we'll talk about in the next episode. So periodization is something that it has to be a massive part of my philosophy when I'm going into the different tennis contracts that I have, and I'm building my teams. I have different teams in each tennis academy, and often it's one of the pieces of my training philosophy that I have to get into with the coaches to make sure that they know the direction of travel and the vision I have for the physical training program. So very quick book review. We'll get into these in the next episode, but I've just got 3 different books here that really kind of, for me, give you a flavour of the spectrum that we can be talking about when we're talking about periodization models. So 3 very special books to me that have influenced my training philosophy. The first one, and I think this is one of the most succinctly written and clear books for me on periodization. It was written by Ian Stafford on behalf of Sports Coach UK, and it's called Coaching for Long-Term Athlete Development. I believe that it is still in publication, and you might even be able to get it from Sports Coach UK. I don't know, but it was a book that really, for me, explained long-term athlete development and Istvan Bali's model of periodization perhaps better than any other book, and including Tudor Bomper's own book itself. I actually found this was much more relatable to me, and it made a lot more sense. So definitely something we'll get into next episode. And then paradoxically, while this is quite an easy read, and I definitely recommend this for your entry-level coach, this book here, Special Strength Training Manual for Coaches, which is co-authored by Yuri Vergashansky and his daughter Natalia Vergashansky. This is a heavyweight read, and this is not for the faint-hearted. But what it did is it really kind of opened my eyes to some very specific concepts built around what we would call conjugated periodization models, or even block periodization, whatever you want to call it. And then kind of building on that, we really get into some more modern contemporary approaches on one hand, although this has been going around for 50 years in the former Soviet countries. But it's called Transfer of Training in Sports by Dr. Anatoly Bondarchuk. It's a translation of some of his work. It was one of the first opportunities that I had to read about these training methods. And if you've followed track and field for any amount of time, I remember listening to some podcasts from Derek Averley when he was up with the Canadian Athletics Federation, and he got me onto this, and it's mind-blowing stuff, and we'll get into it next week for sure. So if you haven't already done some reading on periodization before, definitely worth checking those out, but we'll get into that next week. The main thing I want to talk to you about this week is the reaction that I had to the blog that I mentioned in the last episode. And we were talking about the tagline was how a master's degree gets you a minimum wage these days, and it was speaking to the truth, which is the UKSCA published a State of the Nation survey in 2016, and one of the things that came out for me was that, not surprisingly, the vast majority of practitioners at the moment are under the age of 35. Something that kind of confirmed what we already know was that I think almost 20%, I said, were unpaid, and then a good third, the rest of the population, were on less than £20,000 per year. So it really speaks to the fact that while this isn't a profession, and most people that are practicing in elite sport have got the book smarts, are doing the degrees, in most cases have done a postgraduate master's, it's kind of wrestling with the fact that in a lot of cases they're getting paid much less than what you might expect for someone with similar qualifications and experiences in another industry. So got a lot of reaction from that, and I've just made a couple of notes on things that people were saying on some of the forums that I was putting this blog on, and I was inviting people to comment on it. One of the things that was apparent is that we haven't had many people kind of speak on behalf of the universities in terms of what they feel is their role in preparing the modern day student for the workplace. And I can only really comment on my own experiences and say that off the bat, I don't regret doing the BSc and the Masters one bit. It really, for me personally, helped to develop a critical analysis in my own ability to effectively go on the internet, look at videos, interact with people, and know quickly whether or not they were the real deal or whether they were just feeding me a load of bullshit. Because there are a lot of people out there who talk a good game, and when you dig a little bit deeper, they really don't know what they're talking about. And all of the skills that I learned in terms of how to critically evaluate the validity and reliability and the efficacy of people's training programs and thought processes were all built on the skills that I learned at university. Having said that, and it kind of relates to what I said earlier with my early experience as a coach, having said that, after Harpenden, when I got my first taste of true high performance coaching, where I was working with athletes who were 16, 17, 18 years old, training full time, it was completely overwhelming for me. And on one hand, I recognize that is nothing to do necessarily with university. That was everything to do with my mentality, my mindset, my ability to accept challenges and to respond to them in a positive way. On the other hand, there was nothing about what I did at university that really prepared me for the everyday nature of what it is to be an S&C coach, particularly when you're learning on your feet and you're having to learn fast. And the biggest thing for me was that conceptually, in terms of what you actually do day in, day out as an S&C coach, which is planning, delivering and reviewing training programs, it was a very, very small part of my development through university. In fact, I remember doing one module, and I think it was in my final year, and it was advanced training principles of, strength and conditioning, although they didn't call it then, but it was something like advanced principles of training, and I had to do a 12-week hypothetical case study looking at what I would do over that 12-week period with a sport of my choice. And I think I chose hockey for some reason at that time, and I just used a very classical linear periodization model and built them up from endurance to strength to speed in the 12 weeks, and that was it. And then when I got the opportunity to actually do that for the first time, real life, with real athletes, I was completely overwhelmed by it, because there were so many intangibles, so many decisions I had to make on the fly, reacting to the people in front of me, that it just completely overwhelmed me. And it was a springboard for me to really question whether I was any good. Really now, get into the nitty-gritty here. I'm going to speak to the problem now, and I'm not going to talk about what I think I would have done to give myself a chance of getting beyond this minimum wage situation in 2003 when I was doing a master's, because the advice I would have given you then would not be relevant to the current student who's working in and living in a completely different place. When I went to university, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't Twitter, there wasn't LinkedIn, there wasn't all of these social media platforms, and people weren't as accessible. So, I still think that there is some basics that you just do that are timeless, that work, but we'll speak to that in a short while. First of all, I just want to dial down on some of the feedback that I got from people who are in the industry, who are kind of speaking to the problem. And so one of the key things that a lot of people who are like me, who are an employer, were saying, and this is true, is that it's staggering that for that now £9,000 per year commitment, the return on your investment in a lot of cases, as to say that you have the skills and the competencies as a coach, is questionable. Too many students are coming into my environment and environments like it with other coaches that I've spoke to that are just not well equipped with the basic competencies to be able to do the fundamental aspects of good coaching. They don't know how to coach. They don't know how to do warm-ups. They don't know how to do speed sessions, strength sessions, conditioning sessions, recovery sessions, stretching, whatever. They just don't know how to do it. And if they do know how to do it, often they just don't have that art of coaching. They just don't have the personable skills to be able to engage in an interesting way, to grab and maintain the attention of the athletes that they're working with, to use humor, to use wit, to be able to know when to give them an absolute iron fist and be able to say, hey, come on, get on with it. versus a little bit more of the shade and the light, where you can be a little bit more relaxed and happy and have a bit of fun, make a joke, and they just don't have these skills and how to build rapport, how to communicate. It's staggering, really. And you know, whether or not it's the place of the university to, you know, to really cultivate those practical coaching skills within the context of the academic environment, I'm not so sure that I'm in the best position to actually say what is and what isn't, you know, suitable to be in the degree. But I certainly think that one of the comments that was made on the forum was that, hey, by the end of their 3 years of being in an undergraduate degree, don't you think that they should be able to go through the UKCA accreditation and get accredited? You know, if not before they've graduated, certainly by the time they graduate, that should be one of the realistic goals. And it's surprising how many students now are coming through 3 years of a learning process and are nowhere near ready to be able to do that, and then have to go and invest in the workshop series after they've graduated. And for me, I think what's happening, and this is what I need to go and check and speak to the program directors in the university, is that a lot more of the practical elements of the academic program is becoming aligned with the learning outcomes and the standards of practice and competency frameworks that would be required for that student to sit a similar UKCA accreditation when they graduate, or during the degree, if at all possible. So that's one thing to kind of put out there, is, you know, is that something that we should be realistically expecting our students to have accomplished by the time they graduate? If I'm spending £9,000 a year on a degree that is now actually a strength and conditioning degree, not a sports science degree like it was when I was in the game, then I absolutely would want to, you know, expect from myself that I can do that. One of the other things that came up was, in terms of the UKCA competency and that kind of thing, the other thing that was interesting to me that people were talking about was that, sorry, and I've just lost my thought here. Got it back here. Was, wouldn't it be more interesting and relevant and maybe even necessary that more of the lecturers in an academic situation have been there and done it as a practitioner, as a coach, and can speak to their own applied experiences of taking the theory and then implementing and executing it in a real life environment? So we talk about this difference between evidence-based practice and practice-based evidence. And really what I'm saying there is that the people that are in the trenches, that are doing the coaching, intuitively know when something they're doing practically works from an athletic performance standpoint. And it's the academics that will retrospectively look at one of these training methods that are in vogue or have become popular, and they become popular because they work. They will then go back and do some kind of research study to validate the integrity and the success of this method, which the coaches are like, no shit, Sherlock, of course it works. We've been doing it for 20 years and we've got results. We don't need you to do a scientific study to tell us that. And I'm just getting on my soapbox, but I completely understand the academic standpoint of view as well, and we need that. But what they're saying is, and I think I'm right, that Dan Baker, who we all know is one of the most outstanding applied practitioners, who has cultivated a career of 20 years of applied research using his own professional rugby league Brisbane Broncos athletes to do both, to be in the sweet spot where he's actually testing his own intuitive training methods, but then researching them and showing the scientific basis for why they work, and also highlighting the difference in performance level between the elite and the sub-elite, because he had the opportunity to do that. So that's really exciting, and I believe that he is now going to be doing a lecturing position at St Mary's University. So that, for me, could be the evolution, and that's where some of these SNC type degree programs are going to be wanting to go. I think that's the future, that's evolution. It does obviously presuppose, and it is built on the premise that there will be enough coaches who will also want to then be in the academic sphere. And it's going to have to be those kind of coaches like Dan who are doing the academic research and getting their PhDs whilst they're in the coaching field, as opposed to doing a PhD in a lab perhaps. I think these are the kind of people that are going to be really interesting and are going to be the future thought leaders of the academic sphere in the future. So that's kind of where I think we want to go with it in terms of how the universities can best prepare coaches, is give them the practical tools by aligning a lot of the practical content of the degree with the UK SEA accreditation, and so that when they graduate they've already got that, and then along the way have inspiring thought leaders like Dan Baker, who have the academic book smarts, who understand the academic process of scrutinizing with the correct scientific validity and reliability of the practical elements of coaching, and know how to use the scientific rigor to test and validate their own training methods. I think that's a massive piece. And I guess the final thing I would say then is speaking to the student. If you're a master's or undergraduate degree student, or someone who's even younger, who's at school and is thinking like, is it worth spending £9,000 a year right now to go and do this degree where you're telling me that something like more than 20% of people who are under the age of, and most of them are under the age of 35, are not getting paid? Is this worth it? I'd probably say to you, look, here's advice I'd give you if I was you. If in 2017 the only thing that you have got going for you now is that you can distribute your CV to people who you don't know and you've never met and say, hey, here's my degree and this is what university I went to, you've got no leverage. You've already lost, okay, because no one knows you and you are in a competitive market with 20,000 other sports-related degree students. You have got very little chance of getting noticed, of grabbing anyone's attention. The biggest leverage that you have in this game is going to be being known, okay? Most people, and it's not going to change, get their job, their first job, like I did, through the networks of people that are already known to you and they know you, alright? And now in the modern game, the massive benefit to you that I didn't have is the ability to easily access and reach many of the thought leaders in our space, in our SNC community. They're all out there, and I would say, listen, you need to get onto Twitter, you need to get onto LinkedIn, you need to get onto Facebook, you need to get onto Instagram, you need to be following, the top 500, 600, 700 thought leaders or people that are grabbing the attention currently of us as practitioners. Who are the people that we want to go and follow and watch and learn from, and where are the environments that we're inspired by? Go and follow those people. And then, are you prepared to put in the work to do the 80 or 90 hours of endless emails and messages to say, hey, I'm Daz, I'm this coach who's got a lot of passion, I'm excited, I think I can add some value, I'm prepared to come in and help out on the program. Yes, maybe for free if you're an undergraduate, get it in early, pay the way forward by doing the free work soon, not later, not when you've graduated, but whilst you're a student, get that in early, do the paid forward work for free, ask if you can buy them a coffee, take them out for 5 minutes and say, I'd love to spend 5 minutes just asking you about your program, and give them some upfront value by telling them that you'd like to obviously be there to help out, support their program in any way you can. And I'm telling you now that that's going to put off a lot of people, because are you going to be prepared to do 80 or 90 hours of email and messaging and putting yourself out there when in reality probably 1 or 2 or maybe even 5 of those people will reply to you? And of those 5 that reply to you and go, hey, yeah, I'm here, really always looking for coaches to come and help support the program, maybe one of them will actually take you up on that offer to have a coffee with you. And now, I'm telling you now, because I'm being real, if you were asking me, I would do that, because that's the kind of person I am. I have got nothing to lose, I've got nothing but upside to have other people coming into my environment, and you can come as often as you want. But I'm a rare breed. A lot of people won't do that. But if you're willing to do that and get out and reach people, as Gary Vaynerchuk says, the guy that you know I'm passionate about, 1 is better than 0. And you just need that one person to give you a chance, to give you that audience, and then you're in the game. And let me tell you this, when you get in that game, you have to be, and this is the truth, you have to be fucking good. You can't be beating around the bush here. If you get the opportunity, you got to be a talented coach. And that's where I think we do a disservice to you if we don't give you that feedback soon in your career, because you know what, not everyone is entitled to a job full-time or part-time or paid in this industry, because not everyone has the talent for it. And that's the big thing, and it speaks to the truth, it speaks to your heart here, is that have you got the minerals, have you got the actual ability to get in front of people, grab their attention, be interesting, improve their performance, and do it time and time and time again, day in, day